I love when
Okay.
things come together like that.
Hi, everyone. Hopefully we're getting people jumping on.
Happy Friday. I gotta stop saying that in Facebook Lives. I always say, well, it's because I am happy it's Friday.
Friday is the best day of the week.
Oh man, it's like my signature greeting on Facebook Lives, and anybody that has tuned in multiple times is probably like, who is this chick? And why is she so excited it's Friday? I'm very excited it's Friday, everybody. We've got lots of faces on our Facebook Live today. So it's super exciting because, you know, when it's just like one or two of us, it's not nearly as cool. We've got lots of stuff that's going to be happening today. Very exciting. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. So it's super exciting because, you know, there we go.
Are you having the same issue? We're broadcasting our broadcast on.
It's hard to monitor the chat and to go through and pay attention to what's going on. But if anybody has questions, I want to make sure that we don't always get to have our advocates, and especially getting to have three. I want to make sure if people have questions, because we really want to bring on some more advocates, right, Sam?
Yes, absolutely.
And I will talk about it a little bit today, but we know that there can be myths and misunderstandings about what it is that you guys do. So I'm super excited to kind of dive into what that is, because we need more advocates. And I think there's a lot more creativity and flexibility with what being an advocate is than what people think. Mm-hmm. All right. So how do you good with going and get ahead and
Yes, yeah. Right. So before we jump in, I do want to say the cool thing about our advocates is they're from all around Indiana, and we would love to know where all of you tuning in, where you're coming from, probably the comforts of your own home, but if you could just share in the comments where you live, whether you're in Indiana or outside of the state, we'd love to connect with you that way. If you haven't joined us before, my name is Hadia So, and I'm with Maggie Cattell, and we are both program managers at the Greater Indiana chapter. We've been doing these Friday Facebook Lives every Friday, and we're super excited because we're getting to see a lot of familiar faces, and we're also getting to share a lot of information with you about what it is that we do here and some of the faces that we work with. So I'll let Maggie share a little bit, and then we'll kind of jump right in with our amazing guests today.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. So we'll be doing a little bit of an overview of what we're going to be doing with Facebook Live and programmatically at the end. But today we are focusing on advocacy. And with us, we have Sam. And Sam is going to be giving us a little bit of information about what's going on. And she's going to introduce three of our volunteers. And we're really excited to be able to ask some questions and learn a little bit more about what you guys do. So Sam, tell us about you, who you are, what you do, and all the above.
Thank you so much, Maggie, and thank you for everyone who's tuning in. We're so excited to talk to you about the advocacy program today. I'm Samantha Bresnahan. I'm the advocacy manager for the Greater Indiana chapter. I've been with the association for about 10 months, and before that, I was a legislative assistant at the State House. So policy is my background. For those of you who may not know, the Alzheimer's Association has advocates across the state of Indiana who take time to develop relationships with their members of Congress and advocate on behalf of those living with Alzheimer's or dementia and their caregivers. And what they do is so incredibly important. They spend less than an hour a month just educating our members of Congress and our state legislators on the importance of research funding, on providing care and providing support for those living with the disease and their caregivers. So I am so excited because we have three advocates with us today, like Hadia said, from all across the state. And I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves. If you can just say who you are and where you're from, and I will go ahead and get started with Scott.
Hi, I'm Scott Bevington, coming to you from Connersville, Indiana. I am the volunteer ambassador for the 6th Congressional District, representing beautiful East Central and Southeast Indiana.
Thank you, Scott. Anna?
I'm Anna Newberry. I am from Springville, Indiana, and I live in Salem, Indiana, which is about an hour north of Louisville.
And I'm Tyler Doobie. I'm from Lafayette, Indiana.
Thank you, guys. Well, I want to start off with, I think, is such an important question, which is, why do you guys do what you do? Why do you advocate? What's your story? So we will go ahead and get started with Anna this time.
I advocate because I want a world without Alzheimer's for my children and grandchildren. My maternal grandmother was diagnosed with dementia when I was 10. My paternal grandmother, Mama Ori, was diagnosed when I was 25, and both were diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. I had a significant role in caregiving for my Mama Ori. I've battled with depression and feelings of being defeated by Alzheimer's disease. While being a caregiver for my Mama, I was raising my son and working, and I struggled with feeling overwhelmed a lot. After we put Mama in the nursing home, my feelings of defeat intensified. I got angry, and then I decided that I wasn't going to be a victim anymore. So I began participating in the Longest Day for the Alzheimer's Association as a team captain. And I started actively participating with the advocacy program earlier this year. Now I have another close relative that has been diagnosed with dementia, and she doesn't really like for people to know who she is, so I'm not going to say that. But I don't feel defeated anymore. I feel like I have regained my power and that I can make a difference even for her, even though she's already received a diagnosis, because I'm not laying down and taking it. I'm actively fighting the disease.
Thank you, Anna. I just think everything that you've been through and the way that you use your experiences to advocate for others is just incredible. So thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
And then Tyler, why do you advocate?
Yeah, I advocate. My mom was diagnosed with the younger onset Alzheimer's at the age of 48 back in 2011. And before that, you know, my preconceived notion of Alzheimer's, you know, is an old person disease.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's something that would impact people in their 80s or 90s, people who have generally, you know, had a long, good, healthy life. And then at, you know, in your late 40s, that's too young. When she was diagnosed, I just had my daughter, you know, and she was looking forward to being a grandma. You know, she had 2 boys, so this was her, you know, shining moment. She was ready to have that girl to be able to spoil, and Alzheimer's just kind of wrecked all of that. And so immediately we got involved with the Alzheimer's Association. My mom has a twin sister who started a Team Karen for the walks, and in the first 4 years we raised over $60,000 for Alzheimer's. And so it was really cool. We had different teams all over the country, some down in Atlanta, some in Texas, and in the DC area, here in Indiana. 4 years ago, we started a nonprofit, and we raised another $175,000 for Alzheimer's. So it kind of goes to Anna's point where, you know, Alzheimer's is a horrible, horrible disease, but we all have that opportunity to turn this horrible experience into something better. Maybe something better for us, maybe something better for our kids, our grandkids. Maybe it is something that's going to be better for somebody who has recently been diagnosed. I believe that a cure, a treatment, a prevention is just around the corner. And that's why I advocate, because as much money as any nonprofit organization can raise, the federal government has essentially unlimited resources. And if we can make our members of Congress aware of the devastation of this disease, they can fund the research, they can fund the programs to care for those that are currently living with Alzheimer's. That's where the real difference is going to be made. And that's why it's so important for me to advocate.
Thank you so much for sharing, Tyler. And I wanted to bring up just a couple of points. First of all, um, something that both Anna and Tyler have kind of touched on is your story and the passion that you bring to it when you talk to members of Congress makes all the difference. And just developing that connection with them as a constituent who has either gone or has a family member or a friend who has gone through this leaves such a lasting impression on them. So that's a huge part of what we do as advocates. And then also to Tyler's point, research funding is such an important part, an important thing that we advocate for in order to find a treatment by the year 2025. Scientists and researchers have told us that we have to continue increasing the amount that we invest in research. And so, you know, for people who have received a diagnosis, the possibility of finding a treatment by the year 2025 is very important. So thank you for touching on those things, Tyler. And then we'll go ahead with Scott. Scott, why do you advocate?
Well, I advocate for 3 reasons. I don't know if you can see this, but this is a picture of my grandma. I was lucky enough to have her into my adulthood, and by that point, she wasn't just grandma anymore. She was one of my best friends, and we lost her to dementia in 2004. The second reason I advocate is for my kid's maternal grandfather, Jim Johnson. We lost him to dementia in 2012. By the way, my grandma's name was Gladys Reeve, and I think it's important that we put names and faces with this disease.
Yeah.
She was pretty awesome. The third reason is that, you know, this illness tends to want to run in families, and now my kids have it on both sides of theirs. So I advocate to do something, anything, to hopefully prevent them from becoming patients down the road. That's it.
Thank you for sharing that, Scott. Something that I really want to touch on is, you know, we use our stories to advocate to our members of Congress, but we don't have to be experts on legislation, and we don't have to spend a lot of our time every month doing this. It's just the little things that build up over time, developing that relationship and always reminding our legislators that we're here, their constituents are here, and that they need their legislators to care about this disease. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Tyler this question. What does an average month of advocacy look like?
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about being an advocate is you can really put as much or as little time into it as what works for your schedule. So if you have a really slow month and you want to put a lot of time into it, great. Like, there are a lot of ways for you to do that. If it's a really busy month and you can only put, you know, an hour in for the entire month, great. You know, there's ways for you to do that. Samantha does a great job. It's about every week she'll send kind of a social media post already typed up, ready to go. You just have to copy and paste it into your social media feed, get that information out there. It ties in with what the Alzheimer Association of Indiana and then the larger Alzheimer Association across the country is advocating for. So in essence, you know, we're just, you know, a small piece of, you know, a nationwide organization where all members of Congress are hearing the exact same message. It's a very unified front. So we don't have to worry about necessarily learning all the details of what we're asking, just as long as we're hitting the bullet points that are really being spoon-fed to us. So it's very easy for us to make that impact very quickly, very easily. And then the most rewarding thing is when that piece of legislation that you tweeted about gets passed, you feel like you really played a part in making that, you know, getting that push through that finish line. It gives you that sense of accomplishment as well.
Yeah. And just like Tyler said, we have a lot of templates and scripts and things to help all of our advocates feel comfortable doing whatever activities we're doing that month. But also a template that you can build off of to tell your story. So you can always use whatever we give, but it's also just a foundation for you to be able to really amplify whatever you want to say and put your passion in to what we're advocating for. We do a lot of there are a lot of different activity options. So if you like to write, you can do a letter to the editor. If you like to do phone calls, we do phone calls to our members' offices often. If you're really big on social media and you just want to send out a tweet or a Facebook post, we have those and we do that on a monthly basis. So there's lots of different opportunities, and they can take up 15 minutes of your time, even less sometimes. So it's just something, and it's also something that if you volunteer in other parts of the association, it can go really well with that. I will actually ask Scott, what would an average month look like to you? I know you've been with the program for a little while.
Well, it varies. I mean, it goes between having a conversation with a staffer to helping organize an opportunity to meet with my particular congressman, and bringing someone who perhaps has just lost someone to Alzheimer's. Because as Sam said, this part of this is making an impact and helping them understand, there are 110,000 Hoosiers who have Alzheimer's disease and 330,000 unpaid Hoosier caregivers. So that's 440,000 people throughout the state. If you break that down on average, congressional districts are based on population. If you break that down, then that's about 48,000 people or so in each congressional district that is affected in one way or another. And 75% of them vote. Sometimes that gets their attention,
Yes.
So I think it's just important to show them how devastating this is throughout their district, and it's an important enough issue and a bipartisan issue. And if there's one thing that politicians love, it's bipartisan issues.
So something that we find often, and Maggie and Hadia and I have also talked about, is that a lot of times people think that advocacy is very complicated or that it involves a lot of time, and that's just not true, at least in our program. So Anna, I'm going to ask you this question. Just before joining the advocacy program, what did you think being an advocate would be like, and how is it different from the actual experience?
Before joining the program, I thought advocacy would take up a lot of my time. I thought it would be complicated, and I thought I would feel guilty if I did not participate in everything that I was asked to do. That's pre-joining. I believe the reality is much different. I receive emails about once a week. I peruse them for the latest news and advocacy possibilities, and I've changed how I look at it now, because instead of a duty and a guilt thing, I think of it as a possibility, an opportunity. So sometimes I get prepared email letters that you send out that I can just add my representative's name into, and that's easy peasy, and I can just send it on, move on. And I know that I've done something. I believe Tyler said earlier, when you've tweeted or you've made an action and then that becomes a bill, and you find out that you've helped the Alzheimer Association or Alzheimer research in general receive money, it just gives me a very big thrill. And I sound like a very violent person, but I really have an enemy in Alzheimer's. And so I look at it like I've just made a major victory every time we get anything that advances the cause. So most months, I really believe that I spend less than an hour advocating for the Alzheimer's Association. I appreciate how simple you make it. You make it a very simple process and just so easy and guilt-free. I don't like to deal with guilt, so that makes it an appealing thing for me as well. Occasionally, I've been asked to write a letter to the editor, and Samantha always offers to assist with that if I have any kind of trouble or if I need any kind of start with that. I've never felt like she was pressuring me to do anything. Another occasional thing that I've been asked to do, and COVID has definitely trampled on that opportunity, but she's asked me to go to a meeting before, like we met right before all the shutdowns happened in Indiana. And so writing letters to the editor, I love to write. So for someone that is intimidated by that, that's probably not the big push, but I love that. It gives me lots of opportunity, and I use Grammarly like it's the gospel, and I move on. And then meeting with representatives and their staff members. I love to meet people. I'm a very social person. So I'm looking forward to being able to meet people in person again.
I feel like a lot of times with advocacy, it can be so intimidating and a little bit fear producing when we talk about needing volunteers, because a lot of our other volunteer positions are very forward facing with constituents. You know, our educators, support groups, our walk committees, you see them, whereas opposed to advocates, a lot of your time is spent with those that are making laws. So you're interacting in a completely different way. So it's really interesting that you had that predisposed notion, Anna, because I probably would have thought the exact same thing. I mean, even learning about this, talking with Sam leading up to this Facebook Live, and even getting to see the State Advocacy Day, some of it is also me understanding more and more how people can use their specific skill set to be an advocate for this cause.
And I also love, Anna, that you described each action as an opportunity versus a duty. I love that perspective, that you get these emails and you have an opportunity to advocate. If you don't have time, you can take the next opportunity. And we have different activities that take different amount of times and different skill sets, and everyone can kind of find something that they want to do. And every little thing matters. Every little thing helps to build that relationship. So anything you do just really adds and is so helpful and so impactful. And also, Anna brought up something, the district meetings, or meeting with our members of Congress, which is one of my favorite things that we do. And we are starting to transition that to the virtual world as well. We are meeting with staffers and members to go through legislation, because even during the stage of coronavirus, their constituents still need them, especially their constituents who have dementia or Alzheimer's disease. So as we continue to adjust through these different stages, our advocacy adjusts as well. So thank you so much for sharing, Anna. So Scott, like we said before, you know, you've been in the program for a little bit, for a good amount of time now as an ambassador. So I want to ask you, if someone out there is watching and might be interested in joining our program, what are 3 things you would want them to know?
I'd want them to know that you don't need to know anything about politics. All you have to have is the will to make a difference.
Mm.
The Alzheimer's Association, both at the greater Indiana level and at the federal level, has so many tools available to help fill in whatever holes might exist with you personally in doing this. So don't be intimidated by that. So you just have to have the will. The second thing, it really doesn't take very long. If you got an hour a month to spare, you're going to be effective. You can put more time into it if you want, and that'd be appreciated. But if you only got an hour, that's great. We'll take it. The third thing is that it's rewarding. And I won't bore you with the details, but part of our job is to get support from our legislators, whether it be at the state level or the federal level. And I'm familiar with my congressman and some of his campaign staff. So I thought, easy peasy for me. No, it wasn't. Like anything in government, it takes a while. And, originally I thought, well, we'll knock this out in a couple of weeks because we were trying to get him to support a particular piece of legislation. Well, we worked on it in earnest from about April of 2019. And in early November 2019, I got an email saying that he was co-sponsoring this piece of legislation. I got to tell you, when I saw that email, I cried like a baby. Because if you're watching this, you've already lost someone, or you're in the process of losing someone, and you know how helpless this disease makes you feel when you're losing someone you love. And for the first time, I felt like I did something for her. Something. So you don't have to know anything about politics. You just have to have the will to make a difference. You don't need a lot of time, an hour a month, and it's really rewarding. So I know Sam can give you a lot of details about what it would take to join us, but please join us. We need your help. We want you. We need you, and you can really make a difference.
Scott, that's the question that I get all the time from people is, what am I going to do? I'm one person. How am I supposed to make a difference? And when we talk about advocacy, that's the thing. They're like, why would I do that? What can I possibly do? And hearing you and Anna and Tyler talk, I just want to tell everyone, you are a part of something bigger. We're all in this together. That's the difference. When you're sending one tweet, you feel like you're doing that one thing, but that one action actually goes into a bigger pot where there's hundreds and thousands of people who are doing the same thing you are. And I just think that's amazing. That is where the reward is. It gives you your power back. It lets you do something and you see it multiply.
I don't think I could have said it better. So just thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and sharing your story. And I think even what you said about the time that it sometimes takes to get a legislator to sign on to a bill, just that feeling that you caused that, or you helped to get them to the point where they supported something that's going to assist and provide care for so many constituents is huge. And that's what we do as advocates, and all of the activities that we do. That moment where a member signs on to a piece of legislation, or does a speech on the floor, or whatever it is, and that moment comes from all the work and all the activities just building up and educating them. So thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you to Tyler and Scott and Anna for sharing your stories, and for being volunteers and having such an impact. For anyone who might be interested in joining us, we would love to have you. We are looking for advocates all across the state. I will drop my email and also just our website information in the chat, so that if you're interested in signing up, you can contact me directly, or you can fill out our volunteer form. Like we said, it's less than an hour a month, and we provide all the training and templates or anything that you might possibly need. And then I will also, we have other advocate stories, so I will drop a blog post in the chat as well if you want to learn more about our advocates and their stories. you could go to our website as well. So I'll put all that information in the chat. And thank you so much to Maggie and Hadia for having us. We really appreciate it.
It's a powerful week. Very, very powerful day. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to hear from all four of you. It's fantastic to get to learn more, but mostly I love getting to hear the stories, and stories are what, I mean, that's impactful. That is power right there. So thank you very much for being here. Hadia, so we've got the week off next week for Facebook Live. So nobody tune in next week at noon. We will not be here. I mean, I guess you can. We just won't be there.
You can go watch our old Facebook Lives. You can go back through.
Catch up on what you missed. So we will be back on, and get this, it's going to be July. So we'll be back on July 10th, and we'll be giving everybody a precursor of what our July programs are going to be looking like. Thank you to Sam and our advocates. Hadia, is there anything that I missed? Lord knows I miss a lot.
But I do want to echo what you said. Thank you, all of you, for being here, and thank you for the work that you do. But most importantly, thank you for sharing your stories. I mean, I just think it's amazing that you're voices to a lot of people who may not have voices or who may not be comfortable sharing their stories. So that's the part that I personally appreciate the most from you. Thank you for doing that.
All right, team. Yeah, thanks, Anna. We are done for the day. Everybody have a good weekend. Enjoy.